Sign the papers, my father said. Caleb made a mistake. You have what? A savings account? You're replaceable. He has a daughter, my mother added. They threatened to cut me off completely, unless I covered up my brother's federal fraud. Forgetting one tiny detail, my brother signed my name on a loan document, emptied the joint account we shared, and disappeared to Vegas. My parents told me to cover for him until the bank opened the audit file. The notification came at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I was still at my desk at Hartwell and Associates finishing a quarterly report that wasn't due until Monday because that's the kind of person I am, the kind who stays late, the kind who double-checks everything, the kind who apparently gets completely blindsided anyway. The alert was from First Meridian Bank. Unusual account activity detected. Please verify recent transactions on account ending in 4471. I frowned at my phone. That was the joint savings account my brother Caleb and I had opened 3 years ago when our grandmother passed. She left us $40,000 each, and our parents suggested we pool it into one account to build family wealth together. I had agreed because I trusted my family because I was, as I would later understand, an idiot who confused love with safety. I clicked through to the balance. $312. $312 out of $83,000. My hands went cold. I called Caleb. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I texted. Nothing. I opened the transaction history on my laptop and scrolled through the withdrawals. 6 transfers over 4 days, each just under the $10,000 federal reporting threshold. The last one had cleared 40 minutes ago. The destination account, a holding account registered to something called Meridian Apex Ventures LLC, which, when I searched it, had been incorporated in Nevada 3 months ago. Caleb had been planning this. I called my parents. My mother answered on the second ring, which meant she was awake, which meant she already knew. Maya. Her voice was careful, measured, the voice she used when she was managing a situation. Where is Caleb? I asked. A pause. He's taking a short trip. He needed to clear his head. Mom, the account, it's empty. Another pause, longer this time. Come home. Drove to their house in a fog. The lights were all on when I arrived, which told me my father was already staged, already prepared. He was sitting at the dining room table with his reading glasses on and a folder in front of him, which was his version of armor. My mother was in the kitchen making tea no one would drink. Sit down, Maya, my father said. I sat. Tell me what Caleb did. My father opened the folder. Inside were printouts I didn't recognize, a loan application from First Meridian, a signature page, a promissory note. He slid them across the table to me. Caleb took out a business loan, he said. $80,000 secured against the joint account as collateral. I stared at the signature page. My name was on it. My signature, or something close enough to it, was on the co-applicant line. I didn't sign this, I said. We know, my mother said softly from the doorway. Then I'm going to the bank tomorrow, and then I'm going to the police. The silence that followed was the kind that has weight. My father took his glasses off and set them on the table. Maya, I need you to listen to me very carefully, he said. Caleb is in over his head with some people. Real people. The kind who don't accept that you've run out of money. He needed capital to cover what he owes, and he didn't have time to ask. He forged my signature on a federal loan document. He made a mistake. That's a felony, Dad. My mother came and sat across from me. She reached for my hands. I let her take them because some part of me still thought she was going to say something that made sense. Sweetheart, she said. Caleb is your brother. He has a 2-year-old daughter. If you go to the police, he goes to federal prison. Noelle grows up without her father. And there it was. My niece's name deployed like a weapon. Caleb should have thought about Noelle before he forged my name, I said. My father leaned forward. Here is what we're proposing. You tell the bank it was a miscommunication, that you verbally authorized the loan and the paperwork got confused. You sign the corrected documents. We take out a second mortgage on this house to cover your half of the collateral. Caleb pays us back over time. And the $83,000 he already transferred to his LLC? He'll pay it back. He's in Vegas, Dad. He'll come back. I looked at my father, This man who had taught me to balance a checkbook at age 10, who had lectured me about compound interest and financial responsibility for 25 years, and I felt something shift inside me. Not break, shift. Like a tectonic plate moving an inch. And if I don't agree to this? I asked. My mother's hands tightened on mine. Then the bank pursues the debt through the joint account, which is in both your names. You're equally liable, Maya, even if you didn't sign. Your name is on the account. A lawyer could argue you had constructive knowledge of the loan. I pulled my hands back. That's not how that works. It might be how a judge sees it, my father said. And these things take years. Your credit gets frozen. You can't buy a house, can't get a car loan, can't. Your career at Hartwell requires a clean financial background check, doesn't it? He knew it did. He'd attended my hiring celebration dinner. We're not threatening you, my mother said quickly. We're protecting you. And Caleb, and this family? I drove home and sat in my parking garage for 40 minutes. The math of what they were asking me to do was simple and horrifying. Absorb a fraud. Sign paperwork legitimizing a forgery. Let Caleb walk away from a federal crime because he had a daughter and I didn't, because he was charming and I was dependable, because he had always been the one they worried about losing, and I had always been the one they assumed would be fine. I had a 7 a.m. meeting. I went inside and went to bed and did not sleep at all. The next morning, before I drove to work, I called First Meridian's fraud department. I told them I had concerns about recent activity on my account and wanted to request the original loan application documents, including any identity verification records used at the time of application. The woman on the phone told me she could have a case number opened and documents available for review within 48 hours. I did not tell my parents. Over the next 3 days, they called me 12 times combined. My mother left voicemails that started gentle and became increasingly textured with pressure. Caleb needs you. Family comes first. Think about what happens to Noelle if this becomes a legal matter. My father sent a single text. The bank is expecting your signature by Friday. Let's handle this quietly. Caleb himself called once from a number I didn't recognize. His voice was different than I expected, not apologetic, not desperate, almost annoyed, the way he used to sound when I wouldn't cover for him in high school. Maya, just sign the papers. It's not a big deal. You forged my signature on a federal loan application, Caleb. I knew you'd say yes if I'd asked. It was just a shortcut. How much do you owe these people? A pause. It's being handled. How much? Around $60,000 to people who were, in my father's words, real people. The kind who don't accept that you've run out of money. I'm not signing anything, I said. He hung up. On day 4, my parents showed up at my apartment uninvited, which they had never done before in the 3 years I'd lived here. My father was in a suit jacket. My mother had brought a folder of her own, thick with documents and a pen already uncapped. This has gone on long enough, my father said, settling himself at my kitchen table as though I had invited him. The bank is asking questions. The fraud department flag needs to be closed out before it escalates. I opened that flag, I said. The silence was different this time. What? My mother said. I called the fraud department 4 days ago. They're reviewing the application. They're pulling the identity verification records, the webcam footage from the online notarization, the IP address the application was submitted from, the device ID. My father's jaw tightened. Maya, if you've already initiated a fraud investigation, I have. Then you need to call them back and tell them it was a mistake, that you reviewed the documents and everything is in order. I won't be doing that. My mother sat down. For the first time in this entire ordeal, she looked genuinely frightened, not of consequences for me, of consequences for Caleb, for the version of our family she had built in her head. Do you understand what you're doing? She said. This is your brother's life. He made choices about his life. I didn't make them. You're being selfish, she said. And there it was. The word she had been holding back. Selfish. Because in our family's vocabulary, refusing to sacrifice yourself for Caleb was selfishness. Protecting yourself was a character flaw. My father leaned forward. If you pursue this, we're done. No more family dinners, no holidays, no support. You will be alone, Maya, completely alone. I looked at him. I've been doing the work of this family alone for 10 years. I think I know how. They left. I closed the door behind them and stood in my hallway for a long time listening to the sound of my own breathing. The next 2 weeks were the quietest of my adult life. I went to work. I answered the bank's questions. I submitted a written statement. I provided my own financial records showing I had no knowledge of and no benefit from the loan disbursement. The fraud investigator, a careful woman named Ms. Okafor, walked me through the process with a professionalism that felt, in those weeks, like the kindest thing anyone had offered me. I did not hear from my parents. I did not hear from Caleb. I heard from my aunt once, my mother's sister, who called to say she thought I was handling this wrong and that she hoped I'd reconsider before it was too late. I thanked her and ended the call. What I didn't tell any of them was this. 3 months before any of this happened, I had installed a financial monitoring app on my phone called Ledger Shield, the kind that serious accounting professionals use. It linked to all my accounts, flagged suspicious activity, and this was the part that mattered, automatically generated timestamped audit logs of every transaction with device metadata every single day. It backed up to a private cloud server on a 24-hour cycle. I had set it up after a client at Hartwell got hit with internal embezzlement and lost 2 years of records because they had no independent documentation. I had set it up as a professional habit, the way I double-checked quarterly reports that weren't due until Monday. The app had logged everything, every withdrawal from the joint account, the device ID of the computer used to initiate each transfer, the IP address, the timestamp. And because Caleb had used the login credentials tied to the account email, which still forwarded to an alias I controlled, I also had copies of every bank confirmation email automatically archived, timestamped, and tagged. The loan application records the bank pulled from the online notarization showed a webcam session originating from a specific device. That device ID matched the transaction logs from Ledger Shield. It matched the IP address registered to my parents' home internet account, where Caleb had been staying for 2 months before his Vegas trip. When Ms. Okafor reviewed the full audit package, she was quiet for a long moment. "Ms. Reyes," she said, "this is one of the most complete documentation packages I've seen in 12 years of fraud investigation." "I work in financial consulting," I said. The referral to the U.S. Attorney's Office happened faster than I expected. Federal bank fraud, forgery of financial instruments, wire fraud across state lines. My parents' attorney called me 4 days after the referral. His voice was very controlled. "My clients would like to explore whether there's any path toward a family resolution before this goes further," he said. "There isn't," I said and hung up. The morning the federal case was filed, I was at my desk at Hartwell at 7 a.m., same as always. My phone buzzed with a news alert local, just a brief court filing notice, and I set it face down and finished my report. Caleb was picked up in Las Vegas by federal agents on a Tuesday. He had $4,200 left in the Meridian Apex account. The people he owed money to had apparently already helped themselves to the rest. My parents retained a criminal defense attorney and issued a statement through him that I never read past the first sentence. The civil suit I filed against Caleb was separate from the federal case. My own attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Vance, who I found through a colleague at Hartwell, filed for full restitution of the $83,000, damages, and legal fees. The thing about forging a family member's signature on a loan document is that you need to be very confident they won't be the kind of person who keeps meticulous financial records. Caleb had known me my entire life and had somehow not noticed that I was, in fact, exactly that kind of person. On the day of the civil hearing, my parents sat on Caleb's side of the gallery. My mother wouldn't look at me. My father stared at his hands. Caleb sat at the defendant's table in a suit that was slightly too big and looked, for the first time I could remember, actually afraid. Not annoyed, afraid. Genuinely reckoning with consequences, afraid. Patricia presented the audit logs, the device match, the IP records, the archived confirmation emails. The judge reviewed them with the attention of someone who had seen a lot of documentation and recognized when it was airtight. Caleb's attorney attempted 3 different arguments. The judge dismissed each one in roughly the time it takes to read a paragraph. The judgment was entered in my favor. Full restitution plus interest plus legal fees. Caleb's LLC assets, what remained of them, were ordered liquidated. The house my parents had offered as collateral for his bail was going to be a complicated situation for them. That was between them and their attorney. After the gavel came down, Patricia squeezed my arm. Outside the courthouse, she asked if I wanted to grab coffee. I said yes, and we sat at a place around the corner for an hour, and she told me about her own family, and I told her about mine, and it was the first real conversation I'd had with another person in 3 weeks. My mother texted me that evening. It was 2 sentences. "You destroyed this family. I hope it was worth it." I read it once and put my phone in my bag. What I wanted to say was, I didn't destroy it. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken. I had been the load-bearing wall of a structure that everyone else treated as decoration, and I was tired of holding up a ceiling so they could ignore the cracks. What I actually said was nothing. Some truths don't need an audience. I went home. I made dinner. I opened my laptop and started a new audit protocol for a Hartwell client whose accounts had 3 months of unexplained variance. I worked until midnight because that's the kind of person I am. The kind who checks everything twice, the kind who documents what matters, the kind who, when someone bets that she'll be too loyal to protect herself, turns out to be the most dangerous person in the room. I had a weekend trip booked for the following month, Pacific Coast, just me, a rental car, and the ocean. I had been putting it off for 2 years because something at work always needed me, or someone in the family had something happening, or it never felt like quite the right moment. It was the right moment now. I finished the audit protocol at 12:43 a.m., saved the file, and closed the laptop. There wasn't anything left to wait for.